Everybody, welcome to Yerushalmi Megillah Daf Lamed Ches. We're holding at the bottom of Lamed Zayin Amud Beis. Halacha Hey, Zok Tehillah Mishnah. HaKorah B'Torah Lev Ches Mishlosh Psukim. Each aliyah cannot have less than three psukim. Well, Yikra L'Matorgim Yosem Pasuk Echad, and I guess again the minig was that they used to teach each into Aramaic because that was the local language that was spoken at the time. So you used to teach each pasuk. You do only one pasuk at a time. You teach only one pasuk at a time. Over Navi, you can even do shlosh as the Mishnah because Navi, there's no halachas we learn from it. Reb Chaim Kanievsky says, so therefore we're not makbid if the Matorgim makes a mistake. Mashen came by the Torah, any small mistake you make, it changed the meaning, the context, halachas. However, if the three psukim in the Navi were three different inyanim, we'll see it doesn't dafka mean parshios. It could mean even three different inyanim, so then you read one at a time. Medalgim and Navi, medalgim and Torah. You can skip in Navi, notice you can skip from one Navi within limits, we'll see. But medalgim and Torah, you don't skip. Vat kama medalig, in Navi, how much can you skip? Akadech liyafsik ha-torgiman. Enough that the Torgiman is not going to keep quiet while you're rolling. Again, those days used to have, today you can say the Mishnah pages, they used to roll. So if you can estimate that the Metorgiman won't be finished teaching the psukim while you're rolling, then it's okay. Otherwise, you can't do that. It's too much. Let's say a person's reading the Torah, and for whatever reason, Rabbi Kaira, he can't say it anymore. Whatever, he has to clear his voice went to a certain case of laryngitis, whatever it was. There I go. He can't read anymore. So the replacement, he has to start not from where the aliyah left off. In other words, he gets up to whatever, pasuk gimel, let's say, and the guy can't talk anymore. You don't start from pasuk gimel, you go back to pasuk alf, and you start again. In Tema Makush Hefsik Rishonim, there's Baruch Lefneim, there's Baruch Lachreim, Achreinim, there's Baruch Lachreim, there's Baruch Lefneim. Because what happens is, if you don't go back to where you started from, it turns out, and this Gemara should say, is going already with the modern day Shita, that each person made a bracha, not just the first and the last aliyah. So each person getting a aliyah made a bracha, because what happens over here is, if let's say you pick up where that guy left off, so in our example, Pasuk Gimel, you just keep going, Pasuk Gimel means Pasuk Gimel never got a bracha. Aleph and Beis did, but Gimel didn't get a bracha. And Pasuk Beis, right, where the first guy was laning, is not getting a bracha afterwards. So because of that, we say start again. You make the brachas, you start again, as if nothing was read at all. Why do we do this? Ksiv, Taras Hashem Tamim, should take Kula Tamim. It has to be complete. And coming in the middle without making the brachas properly is not complete. So therefore, the brachas together with the Kriya is complete. And like I said again, this is not what the Mishnah Shita, that only the first and last aliyahs make a bracha. We're saying each person that makes a bracha. What happens if your pasha 5 psukim? Karis kula. So one ali reads everything. I always said one, the 3 psukim is enough. The problem is that if you read 3 psukim, and of course in those days nothing changes, you have people coming and going in the middle of laning, even. So if you read only 3 psukim, the guy who came late is going to say, "Ooh, 1 second." He's going to. So the guy was leaving early, right? So he leaves. So let's say you get Kayin. So you have Kayin, and there's a parasha of 5 psukim, and you only read 3 of them, and now a guy runs out. So he's not going to be there for Levi. What's he going to think on the way out the door? He's going to think, "Oh, Levi is only going to read 2 psukim. That's strange." Um, fine. So therefore, you have to read the whole parasha so that we don't have this chashash. Lo yasakein. What happens if we didn't do that? Alakar shlosh, you only read 3 psukim. Zeh shuay metachtov. So the next aliyah tzarich likra shnei psukim achronim. So he reads the last 2 psukim of the first parasha, v'shlosh shemi parasha cheres, and 3 psukim from the next parsha. Now again, so you say, so why doesn't he just read? He only needs his 3 psukim. If he needs 3 psukim, just read the last 2 of the first parsha and the first one of the second parsha. So again, the Gemara doesn't say any of this, but Chaim Kanievsky says this. I think the Bavli maybe even brings it down that that's because if people are going to see that you're only reading one pasuk and say, "Oh, that's funny," if for some reason he's right, a guy walks in late, he's going to say, "Oh, he only read one pasuk. That's strange." How can that be? Maybe you can only read one pasuk. You might come to pass in the wrong halacha. So therefore, we say read 3 psukim, even though it's unnecessary. Of the new read 3 psukim of the new pasha, even though it's unnecessary. What about Fektim Malosike Maushi Yaakov? Is this an ikuv? This is only a nice thing to do? Is it lekatchila, but the Avdi didn't do it? Or was it Makiv? Rabbi Yonah Rabbi Yosef Salkon Mechamia Apon La'achui di Yehuda Bar Tamuzno Krevid Rabbi Yosef Bechanina. So Rabbi Gemara says a story, right? That Rabbi Yonah Rabbi Yosef went to visit the brother of Yehuda Bar Tamuza. And Beknishta de Sufnaya in the shul of Kusnaya, Vahavaton Rabbi Yirmiyah Veikev. Rabbi Yirmiyah, such a story happened where the guy only read one pasuk of the new parsha, so he read altogether three, but two pasuk from the first parsha and one pasuk from the second parsha. It was ma'akiv him, and I guess he says, no, read the next two pasuk too. Rabbi Yonah, Rabbi Yosef, Nuva Kaifim. Can you force the guy to do that? Amalei Vo Rab Chamakiv. There you go. You just had a story. Your Rebbe was Makiv. So obviously, we could force the guy to do it. Rabbi Reb Shimon Shara. His name was Reb Shimon Shara. Sarah. Reb Chinra Bar Andari B'Shem Reb Zakai the Kavel. Of Reb Zakai who came from Kavel. Toa bein table to table machzir noisa. Okay, the question is exactly what this means. Just go with the pshat. That means bein table to table. He made a mistake. He read a word that wasn't there. You know, he misread a word. On Rabbi Yehuda I'm sorry. So Machzir, so you make him go back. Like of course, this is everybody's favorite moment in shul. You wait to jump on down the Balkar's throat. He made a mistake. He pronounced the word wrong. So Machzir, so you make him go back. On Rabbi Yehuda Rabbi Zura, Vavdin came. Do we really do this? Amalei v'adayin at lazu. You don't know the answer to this. You're still stuck with this. Afilu toa bein im levi'im. So even if you made a mistake of im and vim, where the context really, there's no difference between im and vim. It's just the question, is it going on the first inyan? But as far as the meaning of the word, it's the same thing. And still you make him go back. So kal v'chaymer, where you read a completely different word with a completely different meaning, zich, you make him go back. Reb Shimon Safra the Tarbanis. Amalei b'nei karte kata b'dibiriyeh the krunon benino. So Reb Shimon Saf, Reb Shimon was the Balkair in this place called Tarbanis or Tarkanis, and the people of the city asked him to chop up the psukim so that the kids can read. Again, a couple of pshatim. This will go to the simple pshat is that they wanted him to teach a half a pasuk at a time to give the kids a chance. I guess they were laning with him. They couldn't lane as quickly as he could. So if he would lane, let's say half a pasuk, so he would say, let's say Taras Hashem Tamima Meshivas Nafesh, and translate that. And then after he's finished translating, you'd say Eidas Hashem Ne'amonu Mechkim As Pesi, right? And translate that. The reason they wanted to do is this way the kids can keep up with him. Also, Shalom Chanini went to ask Reb Chanina, am I allowed to do this? Amalei, and Katan Reishach, even if they want to cut off your head like Tishmael, don't listen to them. And Takabloy Shamalim. So he didn't listen to them. Vishonle min Safrusa, and they let him go. They fired him basically from his job as the Balkaira. Bosiyam Nachas Lahacha. And straight over here again, Lahacha usually in Yerushalmi means Teretz Yisrael, but it says guess the usual word Nachas. Nachas means going down. That means Labavel. And Kami Merishim Ba Yasina, and Amalei, so Rishim Yasina meets this Balkaira, and he says, No, Matavid Bahu Kartach, what did you do in your city? You know, what happened over there in your city? I guess you show up and no face shows up here. What's going on? What was in your old city? But Tanalei of this, he repeated to him what happened. Amalei Balamalei Shemasloin, why didn't you listen to the Balabatim in your town and read half a pasuk? Amalei Bavdin, can you allowed to do this? Amalei. So Reb Shimon said to him, "V'leinu mekatan loim besidra." Don't we do that in the base of Medrash, right? If you're learning, let's say, you're middle of learning, you'll teach half a pasuk, then you come back, teach the other half a pasuk later. You may not even come back to teach the pasuk, the rest of the pasuk at all. So what's the problem? Amalei v'leinu chazon v'kolon loim. Do we not go back and say the entire pasuk? Notice if you're going to go through the pasuk with the Shem Hashem, you can probably go back and say the whole pasuk. Rav Zura biyome manite chakim. Rav Zura heard this, what happened with this Balkair, and he heard what he had done, and he said, he was right. Had I been around in those days, I would have pointed him the local chacham, the local rabbi, as I agree with what he did. Rav says, Kigoin, Hoi Rav es Yotre. So here the Gemara is giving an example. We said if let's say you have Sholosh Parshias, then read one pasuk at a time. We're saying Lav Dafka a Parsha, right? Lav Dafka each Parsha individually. Let's say like in the Torah you have Birchas Koyanim, right? Each pasuk is a Parsha. You don't need that. It's just three different inyanim. And if the Carbonata brings down what these psukim are, it says. Hoy Rav es Yotzroi. There's another pasuk Hoy Oimil Av and Koyama Kadosh Yisrael, which they're not really three separate parashas, but they have three separate. They're like three separate inyanim. Therefore, you do one at a time. Okay. Medalgin and Navi we said medalgin minavi lenavi. You can. I'm sorry, I skipped the line here. Medalgin benavi, medalgin b'Torah. We said in the Mishnah in Navi you can skip it, you can't skip in Torah. Medalgin benavi. In one Navi, yes, but Emet Dalgmin Navi can't go from one. You can't jump around from Shmuel to Chveis to Malachim. That you can't do. No Shnei Masa Mut. However, Navi Shel Shnei Masa, they're considered to be one group. Obviously, they're not all one, but they're considered to be one. That's mutter to do that. Zukim Arvait, Emi Dalgin B'Toyer, oh, you can't skip in a Torah. So you must know why. Rabbi Yirmiyah B'Shem Rabbi Shimon Ben Lakish, Ein Golem Sefer Torah Rabbim. You don't sin, and this unfortunately happens many times today in the shul. You see the guy forgot to mish the Torah, so now we're going to spit, and everybody's going to sit around, and it takes 5 minutes to get to the right place. And if you have 10 people there, that's you just wasted 50 minutes of people's time. So therefore, it's a waste of time. It's not covered at Tzibah. Rabbi Yossi Bar, Ga'atzmacha shohis a parsha ketana. Let's say you just want to skip a couple of psukim, right? So let's say you have like you have a ben Sayar, right? It's its own parsha over there. So you want to just roll. Can you do that? That's no big deal. You're not wasting anybody's time. So he said, so therefore he said, Taki, right? Amalei Kadesh Yishmu as Yisrael Torah said, no. The reason is Kadesh Yishmu Yisrael, not S Yisrael, take out the S. Kadesh Yishmu Yisrael Torah said, no. The real reason is not Techad Tzibur, it's because we want you to hear it in order. If you're skipping around, that's not good. People have to focus on the mitzvahs, it's important. And you read it out of order. You're not doing anybody any favors, you're going to confuse people. What about in Kippur? No, Yom Kippur, you read Achrei Mois and Achbasa, that's skipping around. After Gemara Shani Hishu is Sidra Shal Yom. This is the Seder Hayom that they used to do in the Beis HaMikdash. So that's different because that is the reason for the readings today is to talk about the parshas that discuss Yom Kippur. Teidl Chal, prove it to you, Damar Reb Shimon Lach Shchomokim in a Kor Al Peh, Vacha Kor Al Peh. As we know, Kohen Gadol reads, right? He reads part of it, he reads inside, and then not to waste time, he reads the rest of it Baal Peh and Maseches Yoma. So we see from over there because it's a Sidra Shel Yom, so that's an exception to the rule. Yom Kippur is. Rabbi Yosim Afarkel Barul Chazon. He used to tell Barul, who was the Knish to the Babloya, he was the Gabbai, I guess, in the Knishta in the great synagogue of Bavel, and he used to say, Kadi Chodurai, if you only have one Torah, to have a Goya Achori Peruchta. If you're going to have one Torah and you have no choice and you have to roll, that's like on Yantif, you have one Torah, so you're going to read what you read for the first five aliyahs, and then you have to do mafti, you're going to have to roll the Sefer Torah, do it behind the Peruchis. This way, people, it's not so obvious that everybody just sitting and waiting for you to roll the Torah. Kadin and Tart, if you have two Torahs, Temi Avochodu, Maisi Chodesh. So you take away one, obviously prepare both Torahs to the right place before, and when you're done with the first five aliyahs, or whatever the Yontif is, Yom Kippur, or whatever the Yontif is, then you bring the second one that has Mafte. Ad Echon. So now, you said you can skip. How far can you skip in Navi? Could go in Parshas Yoyada Kohen Gadol. The Parsha of Yoyada Gadol, you could skip that. It's not such a long Parsha. It's not going to be people. Again, the Mashmos is even in Navi, you can't skip too much. The one who is going to get maftir entered into maftir before davening, the one who knows that mashmos is the guy we should really prepare who's getting the aliyahs before davening. So the one who he plans to give maftir to, he's the one that is the chazan for Shema. He's the one that goes for oivel of neitevet at Shema Esrei or Amida, who knows his kapov, and he's going to be the one. And he's going to be the one to lead the canon and duchening. Of a rabbi over and now, if let's say he's a cotton, so either his father's rabbi, they're the ones who are going to say they're going to be over teva, and as they'll say Amida for him. So Shema says we'll see in the Gemara that he could be even a cotton could be Parish Shema because it only says over Yodai. Okay, loitzuch de la hapirish et shema who ever lifnei taiva for who knows says kapov. So it says that the order is a little wrong, right? 1 second. Right. The order in the mission is wrong. First, you tell me the mafta navi, then you tell me, oh, and then he should also, by the way, be the one that says Shema, and Shema, haven't you done all of it? No, it says kapov, that the order's out of order. So Rabbi Yossi ben Chanina says because they're giving you the reason first. Oma kedela zarza, right? Unlike today, where I see many shuls where they give the rav maftir. Maftir is a little kid's aliyah. Any kid can get an aliyah. They can get maftir. So the Gemara says that you give you You don't want to give it's a pchisus in the covet of a person, so you don't want to give him chalisha sadah. So to mezaris him, the guy who you know you're going to give him after to, you also ask him to daven for the yomit. Obviously, for shteitzer, he has to know how to daven for yomit too. Okay, v'mekatnov of Rabbi Avin al Yodai, v'atanin katan leifra says Shema. We know that leifra is Shema. So why are you only addressing Avin al Yodai if he's a katan? What about Shema? Mashma says you can't say Shema either. Avin kad kam b'shehevi shtei cyrus, kam b'shelo hevi shtei cyrus. By Kriya Shema, where he's part of Shema, as long as he has two cyrus, that's good enough. But Oivin Lefnei Teva, even if he has two cyrus, if it's only two cyrus, he cannot be Oivin Teva. You need Ashiyakiv Zakan Hatacht. I'm talking about his pubic hair. So he has a lot of that and is more mature. Then he can say Amida also. All right. That's for Daf Lamed Ches.